Hello, welcome back to Worm Watts, where we harness the God-given power of compost worms to transform organic waste into amazing living fertilizer. And today we are back in our incinerator bin, and we are seeking to keep our food scraps, our kitchen scraps, in sync with in sync with the circular cycle of nutrient cycling, and that's why we're here. So let's go ahead and dig in and see how the worms are doing. Right off the bat, I noticed that we've got some movement right here. So this is a worm right under the surface of the leaves that we set out. And let's see where the worms are at this week. As I'm digging down into here, this is a section, I believe, that had food in it. It definitely feels that way. Kind of a little bit moist still and I think over here was where we had buried, a few weeks ago, we buried some of our frozen, I want to say here was like the frozen peaches and blackberries. So we're seeing some activity around here. We've got some worms moving, so that's really good. I'm not actually seeing any food over here. It's just nice and moist, so that's a positive sign that the food is moving away. And here in the middle, or toward the middle, was where toward the middle of the bin, we dug a trench and put some frozen bananas in. So let's go ahead and see what things are looking like there. Again, we're seeing a lot more worms in this area, which is really good. And yeah, there are worms in there for sure. I think we've got worms, or nope, we've actually got either worms or larvae, and I'd have to dig in a little bit deeper to see. They move a little bit faster than worms do, so I think this could be some larvae, but yeah, they're pretty small. So regardless, we're definitely, the food waste is broken down, so that is a fantastic sign. And at this point, I'm really excited because one of our goals was to kind of just get the bin started, okay? To kind of get the worms acclimated, and just seeing them already moving over from this area where we originally placed them. And here's one right here. But we can see them moving across the bin, traversing the bin. They seem more comfortable traversing it. So all of that is really good. I'm also seeing some of the isopods that we added in here, and they seem to be traversing the bin just fine as well. I'm glad to see the aeration we've got going on here. The bin moisture seems to be pretty solid. One of the best ways to check that, though, I'm going to get a handful of this. We'll make sure there are no worms in it, and then we'll just do a squeeze test. And you can see that it kind of clumps together, but no moisture is coming out. So it's about that wrung out sponge consistency, which we really want. So I'm really happy with where this bin is, and I'm really excited because that means since there's no food that I'm seeing, we really need to feed this bin. One of the big reasons we want to keep feeding the bin, obviously we want to give the worms some more food items, and they can actually make do with eating the brown materials, the leaves here and things like that. But as we continue to add more food scraps, it's going to encourage the worms and give them they'll be aware of the fact that they can continue to multiply, and that will encourage more breeding. So that's what we want, because we're really hoping this is, right now we're recording this video in early to mid-October, and we're getting into the, into the fall and winter season where we've got different holidays. We've got Thanksgiving coming, we've got Christmas, and so usually there's, with all of those gatherings, there's a lot more food, and more food means more food scraps as well. So I'm really trying to get the bin established so that it can help us to process the boon in food scraps that we are expecting. So I'm going to go ahead and do a feeding, and we're going to start doing the corner feeding that we're doing in the leftover lovers bin. So what I'm going to do to mark that is I'm going to go ahead and also get a coconut shell, a piece of coconut shell, so that I can mark which corner we're feeding on. So I'll go ahead and put down the feed. I might actually put down a little layer of sawdust first on the corner that we're feeding on, and I'll put the food scraps on top of that, and then I'll cover it over with another layer of food scraps, just about 1 inch to 2 inches is usually what's kind of recommended to keep the smell down, to minimize pests, etc. So we're going to go ahead and implement that here. And I'm really excited to see that happen. We're going to continue to utilize frozen food scraps in this bin, and that's going to help because the frozen food scraps, as they thaw in the bin, when they freeze, the cell walls of the produce we're going to be adding is going to break. So what that does basically is it makes it easier for the microbes to access the food and to multiply. So really excited to get that going. Let's go ahead and get some of those food scraps out. All right, so before we start, we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and put the feeding on in this corner. This is back toward the area that the worms started on. So I'm going to go ahead and I've already dug out a little bit of this section here. I'm going to put some of the dry bedding down. This is just some, watch out for that cloud of sawdust. So put down some dry sawdust there. And then I'm going to get another scoop of it to put on top of the frozen food scraps once I add those in. All right, so there are a few things I enjoy more than feeding the worms, and here we get to do that. I've got a container full largely of strawberries, a few tops of some sweet peppers, and then a banana peel you can see on top. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour all of that out right on top of these, on top of the sawdust. And it doesn't want to come out, so I'm going to have to loosen it by hand. It's nice and frozen in there. But since these contain so much water in them, I imagine that they'll break down rather quickly. So there we go. We've added that in. I'm going to try to center it on top of the sawdust. And then we've got our second 4 cups rather of sawdust that we're just going to layer right on top of there. And I'm not going to worry about adding extra moisture because with the food scraps having been frozen, I believe that will take care of the moisture. I will, however, add some of our ground eggshell. Just pour that over the top of this, or sprinkle that over the top of this rather. And then a little bit over the rest of the bin as well. All right, that'll do it for the feeding portion. And I feel like that's more than sufficient. Let's go ahead and get our coconut shell. I mean, right now it's pretty obvious where the feeding is. because of all of the sawdust collected there, but I think that having the eggshell will just kind of help things in future feedings. All right, we've got a nice big piece of coconut shell. So nice and hefty. I'll just set that right there. I did decide to go ahead and bring a little bit more of the sawdust. I'm probably not going to add all of it though. I don't want to overdo it, especially since we're not adding extra moisture. Sawdust is very absorbent, so I'll just go ahead and leave it like that. And I'll go ahead and put the coconut shell right on top there. And so this bin, we're going to go ahead and set it up with that food, with that feeding. And I'm really hopeful that we can come back here maybe in 4 days and find it all gone. So that's my hope. I'm really hoping that with it being frozen, the worms, as it thaws, I'm hoping that the worms will be able to get over there quickly, and that between the microbes that are hopefully multiplying in the bin and the worms activity, that food will be gone and we can start feeding multiple times a week. So that's very exciting. And remember, this bin is also a part of our football season worm challenge. So this is pretty exciting, right? Right now we're in week 6. So this is the Thursday night special of week 6 of the football season worm challenge. And so far these worms are off to a good start. The food is finally gone, and or when we checked it earlier, the food that we had fed was finally gone. So it took them about, I'd say about a week and a half to 2 weeks for that food to break down, but we should be seeing faster breakdown of the food moving forward. So really excited to check on this bin again in a little bit and see where it's at. So the moisture of the bin feels good, and we've got the leaves there adding some microbial diversity. So we will be back with you next time in the incinerator bin. And of course, we've got to wish bye 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 to our food scraps. See you next time from the incinerator bin.